Good afternoon, my friends. It's Thursday. For a while, I thought it was Wednesday, and then for another while, I thought it was Friday. Nope, it's Thursday, October 22nd, and I'm Pastor Lou, and I'm here. These are my office chairs. They've been used over the almost 10 years that I've been here to create a context for conversation and for reflection, often for prayer, sometimes for help, and I offer them to you. This is the Pastor's Chat every day at 2 o'clock on weekdays, a chance to listen to a pastor as he tries to navigate what might be the landscape of your life and comment on it. I think what it would be like to try to do these pastoral conversations if the rules were that you could come and make an appointment and come in and sit in my office, as I've had people do for years and years and years, but that you're just to sit and say nothing. What that would be like. Well, that's what this is like. It's what it's like. You sit, put yourself right here. But you don't have to say anything. And it's up to me, building on the assumption of our humanness, knowing a little bit about the ethos, the environment in which you live, in which I live, none of the particulars, maybe some of them, to then try to chat, to have a conversation that might from time to time touch on things that you think about from time to time, or that you worry about, or that you celebrate. I wonder what that would be like. Pastor Luke, could I have 15 minutes of your time to come in and sit in your office and have you talk to me? I'm not going to say a word, but I'm going to have you talk. And you take a shot at it, and we'll see if it lands anywhere that's helpful to me. Okay. That's what I've been doing. For 6 months, 7 months now? I don't know. Somebody counted out the weeks for me the other day, and I think I blocked it out of my mind. All right, so I want to share this thought with you. Yesterday, I got into a big thought piece about silence and then rest. And I have this quote from Marcus Aurelius. I think Marcus Aurelius was they called him the Church Fathers. He was an ancient thinker and interpreter of the faith. Trouble not thyself in pondering life in its entirety. Rather, as each occasion arises in the present, put this question to yourself. Where lies the unbearable part, the unendurable part of this task? Next, recall to mind that neither past nor future can weigh you down. Only the present. And the present will shrink to littleness if you will just set it apart, assign it its boundaries, and then ask your mind if it avail not to bear even this. I'm going to talk about it, tell you what I think he's saying. It's a lot of words to sort of summarize what Jesus said at one point to his disciples, and Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will have troubles of its own. Think about today. Live for today. And Jesus went on to expand that lesson by saying, it doesn't really apply quite as easily as Jesus sounded that it would. But he says, look at the sparrow. And Jesus asked, do you think the sparrow worries about tomorrow? He surmises that the sparrow doesn't worry about tomorrow. He thinks only about today. He flies around, gathers up the seeds that are available today. But does the sparrow worry that, I don't know, that the winter is coming and he may not have enough food for tomorrow? Jesus is arguing that he doesn't. He lives in the present. And by living in the present, Jesus argues that God, for all the creatures living in a present moment, provides for them. There is provision for today. So clearing our minds out of worry about tomorrow and clearing our minds out about mistakes or influence of the past. Wow. These two tasks pointed to in this little paragraph, to me, are monumental. Do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will have worries all of its own. Live for today. Live for today. I got off into a thought direction a couple of days ago. Well, I'm a parent of 4 children, and I have a stepdaughter, and I have a long history of relating as a dad. And I started to think, really all on my own, no one asked me this, but I started to think, are there things I would have done differently? Looking back, are there things I would change? And it led me down an unhelpful path. Thinking in some ways about things I did as a parent that probably I would try to do differently, or things that I didn't do as a parent that I should have done. Oh, wow, what a draining exercise. And I think in the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, and also in the wisdom of Jesus, the past is the past. The future isn't here yet. The past is already done. It's done. Now, that doesn't mean that, there aren't things in your past that you want to find forgiveness or reconciliation for. That's still true, but that's about today. The past is the past. Letting the past go, accepting it, ignoring the worries about tomorrow as much as you can. And what Marcus Aurelius says is, if you can put a dividing line down about tomorrow and let, like Jesus said, the worries of tomorrow take care of themselves, and then put a dividing line down on the past and admit the past is the past. It can't be changed. It can't be changed. So then what's left? Well, we turn to the present moment. And in the writing, it says that if you do those two things, the present worries will shrink to littleness. If you think about today only and give it its boundaries, the worries of today will shrink to littleness. And then ultimately your mind will ask you, well, maybe I shouldn't worry about that either. Yeah. If I figure out how to not worry about tomorrow, and I talk to myself about the past and say, you know what? C'est la vie. The past is the past. If I can effectively do that and turn only then to the worries of today, that your mind will eventually say, well, what the heck? Maybe I don't need to worry about that either. That's the idea. In 12-step groups that try to lead us towards those great words of serenity and sobriety, the good life as Jesus would have described it, fullness of life, where we are not controlled by other things or other people or compulsions that we don't want. Free of those things, we learn some sayings. They exist in these 12-step groups. One of them isn't really all that self-explanatory, but it is, you'll have this. You'll have this. This happens in life. That's one of those statements that comes out of when you've set the boundary about worry of tomorrow and trying to fix the past and living in the present. When you turn really to the present, full view and full mind, you hear the wisdom of the 12-step recovery movement saying, you'll have this. You'll make mistakes once in a while, or other people will say things that hurt you, or, I don't know, you'll have a regret. Things happen. That's what Aurelius is talking about when he says, when you get focused on the present, the monsters of the present begin to shrink. And they go, well, you'll have this. You see, the journey towards serenity, or the journey to find happiness, turns to the present moment and seeks wisdom. I've said along for many years now that my non-professional view of addictive behavior is that drug addiction and smoking and many of the things that we do to alter our state of, I don't know, anxiety or worry grows out of it a lack of knowledge about how to cope with the anxiety of life, the fear of life, worry, or strong feelings of anger and hatred. We don't know how to cope with them. We have them, but we have no process, we have no way. And so they overwhelm us. Mistakes of the past can overwhelm us and suck every minute of joy out of our lives today. Worries about what's going to happen tomorrow. Boy, this is a good time to be talking about that. But the worries of tomorrow can suck all the serenity and joy out of today. Yeah. Just suck it away. And so when you're living in a present moment that is joyless, that is hopeless, that is just overwhelmed with the what ifs and the worries, these chemicals, these illegal and illegal drugs, these compulsive gambling, all the kinds of things that we do that don't make life better, really, except maybe for a moment, and they leave you worse off. You know, the truth about gambling is you gamble, and yes, you do win. You'll win once in a while. But when you win in gambling, it brings you back to gambling. It means you're going to gamble until you lose. It leaves you worse off than you were before. You take a drug, you have a really bad day, and you take some of these powerful, mood-altering drugs because you need to make it through the day. And when I say you, I say me. You just need some help. You can't cope. I cannot cope. I cannot cope. I'm so angry, I don't know what to do. I'm so sad, I don't know what to do. So we get assistance in some of these mood-altering drugs. And the ones that are addictive are the ones that after you take them, They make you feel better in the present moment. It's cool. It's like, yes, you do feel better. My God, there's relief. But what classifies them as addictive drugs is that after they've given you 2-3 hours of pain relief, worry relief, life anxiety relief, they leave you worse off than you were before you took it. So the hand motions go like this. If you're having a regular day, and then you get down, angry, you get caught up in an emotion in the present that you cannot cope with, and you cannot wait for it to pass. You cannot live with what's happening, and so you reach for the aid of a drug, or you do your compulsive gambling, or whatever it is, whatever your drug of choice is, and you feel better. This is where you were. You went down to here, and you feel better. There's no question about it. You feel better. Whew, it's great. But then you feel it ends. The feel better that you earned through these behaviors doesn't stop back where you started. It doesn't stop back at normal. It doesn't even stop where you were when you hit whatever that bottom was for the day. When it wears off, when the joy and the elation of gambling or whatever it is, that it leaves you worse than you were when you reached for the help. And then, what really, the most addictive behaviors, the drugs, the chemical drugs, what the problem is that the same amount of drug that it took to get you to here, from here, now you're here, you need more just to get you back to where you were. If you take the same amount you did 4 hours ago, it only puts you back to normal. But it doesn't get you back to here. And so, pretty soon, in the cycle of days and weeks, you're down to here, and you need a boatload of help to get to here. And sometimes you don't get to there. So you keep gambling, you keep drinking, you keep hoping somehow to cope with the pain. Addictive, compulsive behavior is a coping with pain mechanism. The life of serenity and the life of the spiritual life with Jesus doesn't really cast shame on that. It's not about casting shame and making a moral debasement out of it. It simply says, first of all, it doesn't work because it will destroy your life. But there is a better way. The better way is that when that event or that thought, the worry about the future or the regret about the past, knocked you into that pit on the day, finding the strength to endure that low moment in the day and let it only be in that day and realize it isn't going to kill you in that day, this too shall pass, is another wise statement that comes out of the 12-step traditions. Just endure. That's what Aurelius is talking about. Turn and accept. Where lies the unbearable, the unendurable part of this moment? You can endure it. And that's where the sponsor comes from. Because one of the ways that is really a good helping mechanism for enduring some of these things is to reach out to a friend, is to tell someone what's going on. And a friend, not just someone. You don't need someone to lecture you or moralize or whatever. You just need someone to be with you. That's one of the best coping mechanisms in all of our human experience. But many times the pain of today and the worry of tomorrow and the regret of yesterday puts us in isolation where we're judging ourselves so badly we don't want to tell anybody about what we're feeling. And so we reach for other kinds of coping mechanisms that ultimately destroy us. So as much as we are able, let's limit our concerns to this day only. Chances are that on most days, given just the day, we will be able to handle things quite well, especially if we reach out and invite someone else into the space where we're struggling. This little book I'm reading from always gives a commitment at the bottom of the line. It's sort of like the charge and the benediction. I will let my experience of today, be recognized as its own journey. And I will savor it for what it is. Let today be today. If it's painful today, living through the pain of today, do not worry about tomorrow, Jesus said. Tomorrow has worries of its own. You're going to need some of that when you get to tomorrow. But trusting today that this will pass. You will have these things in your life. So there, your pastor's talking to you today and you haven't said a word. Not one word. I pray my words will find relevance in your life, that will be helpful, encouraging, strengthening to you. And that they travel through the space between you and me in a way that's seen as encouraging one human traveler to another. And that through it, God's Spirit will join in that word that goes out and sign and seal your life with happiness and goodness. Best of life to you, my friends. God bless you. And be a blessing where you are to those that are around you. It's Thursday. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.